What's up, everybody? Welcome into a new edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. And you know that Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. So find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. Cam Smith holding things down with my man, 𝗙𝐶 Johnson. A new week, 𝗙𝐶. New work to get out to everybody. Interesting conversation that we're going to have for this episode. And I know I might get some words in the comments right now with the English Premier League kit that I'm wearing with the Arsenal team. I know our producer, 𝗍𝗶𝗹 is a Arsenal hater because for some reason he's a Real Madrid fan. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I just literally got this in the mail before we taped this episode, 𝗙𝐶. So it was kind of a good energy type thing when I saw this come in. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to rock this not only for my Arsenal fandom, but also for Edgar, who does not like Arsenal at all.
Yeah, a peek behind the podcast curtain. We were trying to set up for this podcast, and our guy Edgar was taking you off screen multiple times. Like your shirt. So, yeah, that happened when we were preparing for this podcast.
Definitely, man. But it's all in fun because we have a great time on By the Horns. So, 𝗙𝐶, let's jump into it because as we start to transition more to the turn of, not say summer, but you know, we're getting towards that point where we're in August, getting a little bit closer to training camp, and we have some new faces in these Bulls uniforms and some guys that with that forward group we're looking to see make an impact, but then also from the guards as well. So let's start it off here with one of the signings that for me, I didn't have it on my radar, but when the deal was made, I'm like, all right, I like this move because I've seen this player, especially with playing with one of the best teams in the NBA and how he's being able to best be used, and that's on the defensive end. And I'm speaking of Isaac Okoro, who comes over from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a guy that this past season, in terms of his production and shooting-wise, numbers were down a little bit. But the one thing that I love about Isaac Okoro is that the dude competes, man. He gets after it on the defensive end. And so he's one of the faces with this Bulls team, especially that forward group, where you just want to have guys on that team that just say, no, you're not coming into the United Center and you're not going to welcome us into your arena and think it is going to be an easy night. We're going to make you work for every single thing that you get. And Isaac Okoro is one of those guys, 𝗙𝐶.
Absolutely, Cam. We're in the official dog days of the NBA offseason. We're in August. So, yeah, we're breaking down the new Bulls. And Okoro obviously comes over in the Lonzo Ball trade. Some fans are still upset the Bulls got no draft capital. Put that aside and just look at Isaac Okoro, the player. We talked about him a little bit on the By the Horns podcast, but not a lot. So we're going to go a little more in depth on him here. I've kind of opined that to me, he reminds me a little bit of Patrick Williams in the sense, not as a player, but in the sense that this is a guy who I think is going to benefit from a change of scenery. Now, Patrick Williams has not had that change of scenery yet. We hope that maybe he can refine his health and his footing with the Bulls organization. But you know, Okoro is a guy who was selected one pick behind Patrick Williams, and I could be wrong, but I've got him projected as the starting small forward. I doubt Billy Donovan will answer that question for us on the first day of training camp, but I just think you project a starting lineup of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Modest Buzelis, Nikola Vucevic. You really only have one plus defender there, and that's Modest Buzelis with his block shot ability. And, you know, he's still a young player who's learning his way around the league and needs to add strength. So I think you need a defensive presence. And that's why I pegged Kevin Huerter. And, you know, maybe Patrick Williams will surprise us and claim the starting small forward position. But I like Okoro's, as you mentioned, his defensive presence, his physicality. And I think this is a guy, I talked to him briefly in Vegas when he was sitting courtside with the rest of the Bulls, just introduced myself. I think this is a guy who is really looking forward to a change of scenery, fresh start. And I think he's going to come into camp ready to compete.
Yeah, I'm with you, 𝗙𝐶. Just the opportunity, he understands that it's there for this Bulls team. And when you look at that forward group, outside of Modest, they're really, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, 𝗙𝐶, but just kind of my perspective on it, there isn't a guy that has that just aggressive, get after it mentality. And I mean that in the most respectful way. And what I'm kind of going deeper into an explanation of that is, again, with guys that are just going to say, no, you're not doing this on the defensive end, or when I'm guarding you, you're not going to have these easy goals at the basket or have these opportunities where you think it's just going to be easy night because you're facing off against this Bulls team. And not to say that guys in that forward group, that was their MO or their mentality night in and night out. But you can see the difference with Okoro when he's on the defensive end, especially the pressure on the basketball and how he provides resistance on drives and also his rotations. And I think for a dude that was with the Cleveland Cavaliers and having everybody give that team their best shot and just his role with that group, even though it started to diminish this past season, he still understood that with my time on the court, even though my time in the city of Cleveland may be limited and, fast forward, and obviously it is now he's with the Bulls, that he's still going to put out good tape and show other teams and also everyone across the NBA that he's one of those guys in that forward spot that can guard the toughest position in the game, and that's the forward spot. So that's what I love about Okoro and him understanding what that opportunity will be for him. I really believe, 𝗪𝗧, as much as we've talked about him on the defensive end, that he has a part of his offensive game that hasn't really blossomed. And you can understand why, going back to his days in Cleveland with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, and then, of course, Donovan Mitchell coming over. So he didn't have those opportunities to really showcase what he can do on the offensive end. But look, this is a guy that's a plus athlete. Like, he can really get up and get to the rim and make plays offensively as well, can catch and shoot in certain spots, mostly in the corner, because that's how, this is his role. He's a 3-and-D guy, right?
Right.
But I think he can do more with the basketball in his hands and creating plays for others.
Yeah, I mean, his usage rate was pretty low in Cleveland. I mean, he was asked to defend and knock down open shots. But like you say, Cam, what I like about him is he is an athlete. He can get out in transition. He can catch lob dunks. He's league average from three-point range, 35%, but that number increases from the corner three, as you mentioned. Hasn't had to do a lot of shot creation. And quite frankly, I don't think we'll be asked to do a lot of that with the Bulls either. I mean, you've got Josh Giddey with a high usage rate. You've got Kobe White with a high usage rate. You've got Modest Buzelis going to be in more screen roll situations and being asked to be more of a playmaker this year, which we saw in Summer League. So he'll be in that 3-and-D role with the Bulls. And, he's shot 46.7% in his first 5 years in the league. And you got to remember, this is a guy his rookie year who started 67 games. I mean, obviously that Cavaliers team wasn't as good as last year's when his role did diminish, but he's going to be on a, young Bulls team where opportunity is going to be there for him. And I predict, I could be wrong here, but I have pretty high expectations for him. We're kind of going through this episode and placing our expectations on each of these four players we're going to talk about, or I guess I should say 5 players we're going to talk about. But I have pretty high expectations for Isaac Okoro. I think he's going to be somebody that sees this as a fresh start, and I think he's going to take it and run with it.
And at the end of the day, what the city of Chicago and especially Bulls fans love is a guy that just gets after it.
Yep.
And that's what Isaac Okoro does. So it would be no surprise for me that he's going to become an instant fan favorite just because of how hard he plays and just what he brings to the court. So I think Billy Donovan already understands what Isaac Okoro can bring and how he's going to utilize Isaac in his defensive schemes, but then also offensively, as we touched on, a guy that has still yet to fully blossom with his offensive game. But again, the opportunity will be there for him. And when you look at that forward group, and as packed as it is, or depth wise, it's there for this group. I think at the end of the day, when you go through training camp in the season, you're going to have a guy that's played 5 years in the NBA and understands how to get the job done, that he basically is going to kind of motivate the other guys within that group and really kind of go back to the iron sharpens iron type of feel with it, with his team. Like, look, I'm your teammate, but also I'm not going to wait for you guys. I want to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward to help this team and the amount of minutes that he gets. I'm with you, 𝗪𝗧. I think he starts with this group and what he's going to be able to bring, but it's just the mentality that he's going to help this team with, I think will bode well for Okoro in that Bulls uniform. So the expectations are high for me as well with Okoro and what he will be. And for sure will fall under that category of, fresh start, new place, and be able to really grow his game with his Bulls team. So that's the exciting part.
Right on. And who knows, practice battles with Patrick Williams, that can also benefit the Bulls in that regard too, because, these are guys, again, who were high-profile draft picks, 4 and 5 in that 2020 draft. Patrick, again, still kind of being pushed to accomplish more. Again, hopefully he stays healthy, but maybe Okoro can benefit the Bulls in that regard as well.
So not only will Isaac Okoro help push Patrick Williams, we know Modest Buzelis will push Patrick Williams as well. We're not going to make this a Patrick Williams kind of thing right now, but just speaking of that forward group, another new face for this Bulls team, 12th overall pick, Noa Essengue, who we saw in Summer League KC. Obviously, first game, speed of the game, him getting adjusted. You were like, all right, we get it. He's still a young kid, but he started to get better with every single game. You saw that aggression come out even more from Noah. And so with him, with his Bulls team and what he can be, right? And this is a guy that's still growing into his body, has to get stronger, still an 18-year-old kid. And he's going to have his opportunities here and there. I'm sure he's going to spend some time with the Windy City Bulls in the G League as well. But with training camp, he's going to want to go after guys. And that's what I love about Noah and just his mentality and what he will be. So throwing him into that forward mix where, again, the iron is going to sharpen the iron and he's going to get better because he's going to compete is someone that expectation-wise, not on the same level of Isaac Okoro. Two different players, two different experiences. They're two different skill sets. But when it just comes down to competing and making plays, especially on the defensive end to help this team, Noa Essengue has to be one of those guys. So what are the expectations that you have for young Noah this upcoming season?
Mine, Cam, for his rookie season are pretty low, but, I always say, prove me wrong. And I guess I base that not only on his age and his needing to learn the physicality and speed of the NBA game, but also by the way that Billy Donovan brought along 𝗵cieህ𝗁𝗄𝗯 last season, which is well documented. It was very slow. He did not dole out entitlement minutes. And, for us we always focus on the guard picture being crowded, the forward position now is suddenly sneaky crowded, especially if you project Dalen Terry and Kevin Huerter, while technically listed as guards, kind of sliding over into that wing spot where they're probably going to need to get minutes at the forward position when you project Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Tre Jones, who I know we're going to get into, and Ayo Dosunmu. That's kind of a four-person guard rotation there. So, you got Julian Phillips still in the mix. You got 𝗵cieህ𝗁𝗄𝗯, Patrick Williams, Isaac Okoro. So for all those reasons, my expectations are pretty low. What I do like, you mentioned it a little bit, his defensive ability, his length. You certainly can envision a front court pairing of him and 𝗵cieህ𝗁𝗄𝗯 in 2-3 years, what have you, really kind of growing into a pretty formidable defensive tandem with their ability to block shots, their ability to get out in transition offensively, and their ability to just, contest shots. They both got a lot of length, and they both have want to at that end. So while my expectations are low for him in this initial season, and I agree with you, I think we'll see him a little bit in Hoffman Estates, I think ultimately you can see the potential there, and it's up to him to put the work in to achieve it.
Yeah, and we know with Noah and just his mentality and having those conversations with him that he's going to bring that work ethic with this team and to this team, especially in his rookie year. And the best advice, if he's going to take advice from me or you, KC, I'm sure he has a lot more advanced basketball minds that are around him, whether it's player or coach wise, but just be a sponge in this rookie season and learn as much as you can. Watch film and really find your minutes on the defensive end. And that's one of the biggest things for Billy Donovan, I believe, with Billy. And we know who he is and how he thinks and what he wants to see from young guys is really for them to make their marks on the defensive end as opposed to offensively. And let's just be real about this. We know that Noah's offensive game is not at the same level of his defensive abilities, right? We get that, but there's still a lot of room for him to grow to enhance that. And that's just going to come with time, right? We're not expecting Noa Essengue to be rookie of the year. We're not expecting him to take away minutes from other guys. But if he does, that's a blessing from the basketball gods from the Bulls, because he's going to be a guy that's going to open up eyes, and it makes that front office look even better with them drafting him at number 12. And it's like, oh, okay, the Bulls have done it back-to-back years where they've gotten a steal. 𝗵cie last year at 11, and Noah this year at 12. And this is a conversation that we've touched on By the Horns, KC, is that this front office has to hit on these draft picks. So if Noah's another guy to make it 2 in a row for this front office, then that's a great sign. But to be realistic, to see where he is now, and I get the performances in Summer League, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if he plays great as he did, people will say, well, he's playing against guys that are not going to be on NBA rosters, or playing against guys that were coming off of their rookie seasons, so we're not going to put weight to it. But if he doesn't play well, then they're like, oh, well, it was a waste of a pick and 12th overall. He doesn't belong in the league. So that's how I view Summer League at moments. But also I just look at the movement and also the compete level of guys, especially a guy like Noah. And so seeing that from him and how he got better with each game, I like what I saw from him. Now, when he gets to that NBA level in the regular season, and he's going to have his welcome to the NBA moments. And some might say he had one already with 𝗵𝗂 I'm not going to go into that anymore in any detail, but he will ultimately, again, use that as motivation to enhance his game so those moments won't happen again. But he's going to be playing against and competing with some of the best players, if not the best players in the world. And I'm on the side of the best players in the world in this league. So with this group, with that forward group, they're really going to make sure that he's prepared when his time comes. And Billy Donovan is going to make sure of that as well. But what I love about his just characteristic of who he is just, it goes back to the mentality, 𝗪cie, for me, and just how he thinks, how he carries himself, the poise that he brings as an 18-year-old from France, right, coming to a different country and having the world basically be thrown at him with all the responsibilities that an NBA player, especially a rookie, has. So to handle that with grace at this young of an age, it stands out to me greatly, 𝗪cie.
Yeah, and one last thing I would say about him, you mentioned his defensive game is probably a little bit ahead of his offensive game right now. I would agree with that, but Cam, we've seen this team at the NBA levels really struggle with getting to the line. This is a team historically of the past few seasons who has not got to the free throw line a lot. And if you looked at his pre-draft scout, that was like one of his best qualities overseas. And you saw glimpses of that in Summer League. Again, Summer League, we have it in perspective, but with his length, his ability to get out in transition, his ability to draw contact, that's something, you know, 𝗵𝗂 𝗪𝗀 got better as the season went along, but he historically has not been a great foul creator. Kobe White, same thing. They're both improving in that department, but they're not elite at it. And the Bulls haven't really had anybody elite at it since DeMar DeRozan. So I'm not saying he's going to be doing that next season, but you can see the potential there. And that's certainly something that, you know, is essential in today's NBA.
Yes, continue stacking brick by brick and building brick by brick. So it'll be there for him on the offensive end for Noa Essengue. Now, staying in that draft world with this Bulls team, the other fresh face for this group that came in the second round, Lachlan Olbrich, the 𝗭𝗟cie, will be joining this Bulls team. And I'm starting to see a theme with this franchise, 𝗪𝗪. We have to kind of do a all-time Australian player Bulls list. Like, I mean, you're thinking of names of Luke Longley, obviously 𝗵𝗂 𝗪𝗧. Lachlan's going to be in that conversation as well. If I'm missing out on anybody, then I know the great 𝗪cie Johnson will correct me.
Well, let's not sleep on assistant coach Damian Cotter. Okay.
Oh, look, Damian, charge it to my head and not my heart, my man. I apologize. I don't want any smoke when you see me in person at the 𝗪C. Like, Cam, how can you leave me off the all-time Australian list for the Chicago Bulls? So I apologize on that. But the one thing that I saw from Lachlan and just seeing his pre-draft tape and just the analysis there is that this dude is physical. He gets after it. I mean, players are speaking on that leading up to the Vegas Summer League and training camp with them as they prepare for it. Just he's going to be a guy that's going to be physical, draw fouls, and just leave it all out on the floor. And I wouldn't expect anything less from an Australian player because they are rugged and they just bring a mentality where it's like, dude, if you're not going to compete, well, I'm just going to overpower you and just get the best of you. And so Lachlan in the Vegas Summer League, and I haven't seen this in a long time, but it was a fast break, 𝗪𝗪. Guards bringing it up the middle of the floor. And instead of just swiping at the basketball to either get the take foul or try and go for a steal, he tried to take a charge like at mid-court. So if that's not playing hard, I don't know what is. Now, people can say, okay, Cam, that's just like trying to do too much. But look, if you're attempting to try and take a charge on a fast break against a guard, then that shows me that you have some type of heart that you believe that you can get over and beat him to the spot. But Lachlan didn't, and he got a blocking call. But what are the expectations that you have for Lachlan Olbrich at 6'10"?
Yeah, let's be clear. I mean, he's definitely as a two-way player going to be in Hoffman Estates, if not for all the season, the majority of the season. I mean, the Bulls have three centers on the depth chart ahead of him in 𝗏𝗏 Vucevic, Zach Collins, and Jalen Smith. So we have this in perspective. You know, I was surprised by his ball skills. This is a guy who can handle it for his size and actually has pretty good court vision, passing ability. I asked him if he'd ever met or talked to 𝗏𝗏 Vucevic since being drafted. He said no, but he said that he's long admired his ability to see the court and his ability to run offense through him as a hub for a big man. And you know, that kind of stood out to me. I mean, you saw a little bit of that in Summer League where the Bulls felt comfortable having him even bring the ball up a couple times.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying, Nikola Jokic is the gold standard, but I mean, you see Bam Adebayo is another guy. You see more and more big men with ball skills in the league now. And again, I have this in perspective. This is Lachlan Olbrich, a two-way player drafted in the second round, although Nikola Jokic was drafted in the second round too. But my point is, I was surprised by the ball skills. So we'll see where that goes. I do not expect to see him at the NBA level, but he's a second-round pick. See where you go with Flyer with him, and maybe he develops into, a solid backup center moving forward. But his mark is going to be obviously with his physicality and ability to make plays and run offense through him.
Yeah, a guy that for sure will get a lot of love from fans during the preseason, especially at the 𝗠𝐶 when he checks into the ball game, just because he's just going to bring it. And that's what Chicagoans love, right, guys, to just get after it and work hard. Another name that's going to spend some time and kind of similar to Lachlan on the two-way is Yuki Kawamura. And Yuki Mania swept through Vegas, swept through the city of Chicago, and it's still just, it feels like it's just sitting there marinating for when training camp starts and, of course, preseason, because we've talked about Yuki, for those that didn't know, on this podcast, and how this is not just some type of fad or some type of gimmick, that Yuki can actually play. So for those that know about his game and saw him last year with the Memphis Grizzlies in the limited games that he played, but also just seeing him in the G League and what he was able to do there, I believe he was top 3 in assists in the G League, where he averaged 7. And of course, you fast forwarded to what we saw in Vegas and just the numbers that he put up, how well he shot the basketball, how he was able to run this team at the point guard position, but defensively, how he was able to make an impact as well, just pressuring guys and not really being a pest to the point where you have to change your entire offense, but it's just the constant pressure that he will put on guys on the defensive end, which always will stand out. And I'm not sure if young kids listening right now have heard this before, but the easiest and quickest way to get on the floor is to play defense. So you can take that and use that. But Yuki is a dude that will for sure have people tuned in, because he just plays an exciting brand of basketball, but the majority of that brand of basketball will be in the G League with the 𝗰𝐶ity 𝗵𝘀.
Yeah, heart over height, right? I mean, that's what you see from this guy. I mean, he's got obviously going to be the shortest player in the NBA if he logs any NBA minutes, but he plays, cliche alert, bigger than his listed 5'7" or 5'8". I think he's listed at 5'8". I think he's actually closer to 5'7". But look, he's a story, and it's beyond the novelty of his lack of height. It's he can play, and he's obviously got a large international following, with the Japanese media being out in Vegas in full force. This is, you can't overlook this. He's going to be a drawing point for the G League team in Hoffman Estates. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be curious to see this guy play. I think the Bulls would be missing an opportunity if they didn't get him out at the 𝗠𝐶 for some preseason minutes, maybe not game 1, but at some point in that home slate, because he's going to be, to your point, Cam, a fan favorite. And it's because he plays hard, he plays smart, he throws highlight reel passes, he takes highlight reel 3-pointers. But he is a high risk, high reward player. He turned it over a little bit in Vegas, but he defensively competes, and obviously makes up for that lack of height with his hustle and his heart and just his approach to the game. So expectations are Hoffman Estates, but curious to see where he leads. He did log some solid NBA minutes for Memphis down the stretch of last season, including one big game against the Lakers. So we'll see, but certainly a fun story and one we'll be monitoring throughout the season for sure. Yeah,
we will definitely see those Kawamura jerseys, whether it's with the Bulls or also with the 𝗰𝐶ity 𝗵𝘀. For sure, they will be in heavy sights for a lot of people out there. All right, 𝗪𝐶, to wrap this thing up, Tre Jones, who's not really a new face, because this is a guy that came over at the trade deadline for this Bulls when they were involved in that 3-team deal with the San Antonio Spurs and Zach LaVine. But he was one of those pieces where you look at the return that they got in that deal for Zach LaVine, with Zach Collins, with Kevin Huerter, and Tre Jones, who I've always seen since he was a freshman at Apple Valley High School in Minnesota when he played with his older brother, Tyus Jones, who's now with the Orlando Magic. But he always carries himself at that point guard position just in control. And poise is always the word that I go back to with Tre Jones. He's a conductor, man. He understands just how to run an offense and run a team. And we were able to see that in the season post All-Star break and what he was able to do. And his biggest attribute that I've seen from him is his ability to make plays without needing the basketball. And so if you're able to do that, I think that sets you apart in so many ways. But he is back with his team, signed a 3-year deal. So he will be settled in Chicago with his family. And it was great to see them all the time in the tunnels going to the game with Trey as he walks in with them. But what he brings to this team at that guard position is stability. And I think fans will get even more visuals of that and production of that when we see him for an entire season.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no other way to put it than he was playing at an extremely high level when he got hurt, and unfortunately he did get hurt. But look, it's been well documented that he was a Billy Donovan favorite right from the jump, and I'm told that Billy Donovan was pretty forceful with his support for re-signing Tre Jones within the organization. I mean, Billy Donovan likes true point guards. He likes low turnover players, and Tre Jones, I almost called him his brother. Tre Jones is certainly fits the bill on both of those. To me, he projects to be a backup, obviously, with 𝗕𝗫 contract eventually getting resolved, probably here. I should say certainly here, it sounds like. But when that happens, he will be the starter, 𝗕𝗫, and Coby White, obviously, projected to be the starter at the off guard. So, look, I like that deal right from the jump. I liked it even more when I heard the third year was a team option. Tre Jones surprised me a little bit with his scoring ability and his ability to get to the rim and finish plays at the rim. He's very crafty, takes advantages of angles very well and English off the backboard. I think you'll see probably less offensive scoring from him this coming season and more offensive playmaking for others. That's just my guess. I think he was asked to play a little bit more of a offensive role when he was in that lineup down the stretch of last season. I project him to be more of a playmaker next season, but he's just a dependable player. And just like his brother is a low turnover player. And a little fun fact, I go to one Cubs game every year with my family. And this year I went and he threw out the first pitch. So maybe that was a little sign of synergy for next season.
Nice. That's pretty cool. And Trey, again, you know what you're going to get from him at that point guard position. And we're talking about professional sports, especially the NBA, where the usage rate and just the pace of play for guards is extremely high. And I say that to say that injuries are part of the game, right? So when that happens, and it's something that at times are inevitable, not wishing it on anyone, but you need to have someone that can step up in that starter role or someone that can play more minutes like Tre Jones can do. And there's really no drop off in play, and really the play is enhanced a little more. So Tre Jones for sure, great pickup. And yes, I do not use that word lightly. Great pickup for this Bulls team and this guard group and what he will be able to bring, especially with a full season with this group. So added to that guard depth, and that's part of the couple of groups that we're looking to see how things go in training camp, the guard group and also the forward group with this team moving forward. All right, that will do it for this edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand, so find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. For my man, 𝗪C Johnson, I'm Cam Smith. We will see everybody next week, and maybe I'll keep this Arsenal jersey on for my man, Edgar Perez. Take care, everybody.